Welcome, my name's Dr. Nick Williams. I am a Ruby on Rails developer since 2005. I've made many gems, I've done many things. I've been back building Ruby on Rails apps for several years now. And the challenge I've had of late is the lack of a text editor that I like when it comes to building an app. You know, we have the Tricks. Tricks was created by Basecamp 7 years ago, I think. It's written in CoffeeScript. The maintainers stopped being active several years ago and have now ceased working for Base. And if it works for you and you can drop it in, then great. You know, it's got attachments, etc. Work with active storage, but it doesn't work for me in all the ways that I want a text editor. And it's now 2022. What I wanted was the ability to design my own text editor for each project, but I just wanted the core editor facilities. Like I wanted hotkeys, I wanted commands, I wanted to be able to. This is TipTap. Actually, in here inside this box is the text editor. Everything outside is not TipTap. This was just designed for this app, for this website that wanted to use it. So they've designed a text editor that looks like a text editor. These buttons invoke commands on the header, on the different bits of text. And so we could strike through, we could italics. And so, and it has plugins, it has extensions. Obviously there's the DOM underneath of what, we get rid of that, make that, and you can see each time I change it. So it's just normal low-level HTML, but that themed however I want to theme it in this case. So you can sort of see that they've got Prose Mirror. So TipTap is built on another system called Prose Mirror, and it's very block-orientated with extensions and a bunch of stuff I'm still learning about. So I wanted to do more to learn TipTap. I wanted to see whether I could bring this into the Rails universe, given that we have our ways of designing and building web apps. And we have ways with things like Tailwind. You know, it's easier than ever to learn how to be good at designing things and to make them look nice with HTML. So these days we have Tailwind CSS. We have new editors like TipTap that perhaps give us a different starting point. And we have new JavaScript, but we don't have to write CoffeeScript anymore. You know, plain JavaScript or TypeScript is going to get you a lot further. And so, right, I wanted to build, and I wanted to build it in some sort of a public environment, to talking to you, sharing how I build apps, and see if during the process of this, can we bring out what could be a starting point for every Rails app, perhaps built around TipTap. We'll see where we get to. And so in order to build an app, I thought, well, what can I build? And what I wanted is I wanted my own Notion. I've wanted my own Notion. Notion's great. It does more than I need it to do, or it does things I've never figured out how to use. But this core idea of a text editor with which I can, you know, the slash commands and the little cute little thing that hangs off the side here, and the ability to you know, do the things that I know how to do, it makes me happy. And I'd very much like to have that as a Rails app, and perhaps then build things off it because it's mine. So I'm going to build this for you. I'm going to build it over a series of videos. We'll skip some steps and we'll come back to it, whatever's interesting. And so the first thing I'm going to skip is the design. Before I start the video, I recreated this in Tailwind, and I'll drop the URL in the video description below. Obviously I picked pink. Why not? Pink's a great color. So we've got the idea of the header, we've got the icons, we've got text, we've got comments, each of the different block structures we've sort of redone in some fashion, mostly using Tailwind defaults. So I'm picking a Tailwind class that works because, what do I care, it looks pretty good. Things I haven't done, tables, databases, they're all in the future. A couple of ideas that I have done, we've got the sticky sidebar. So if I make this a little bit smaller, you'll see this portion scrolls underneath, and the page scrolls without this scrolling. So that's, we want that. I don't yet have this in and out. That seems unimportant. This drop down in normal, you know, you get a little plan of all the different account selector. We'll want that, but that's we'll get to that. So I thought we'd build this. Now I'm not a statist, so I don't want to start from nothing. I use Jumpstart Pro for all my web apps, even if it offers more than I need for any given app that I'm working on. Chris Oliver, who is the creator of this, has too many good ideas for me to say that I'm cleverer than he is. And so to me, it's like a convergence of lots of good ideas. And so I have two rules pretty much of programming. One is just to agree with Chris Oliver. And then rule 1.a is Chris Oliver doesn't own my business. It's my business. So I make whatever decisions I want. But rule number one is agree with Chris Oliver. So he has lots of good ideas. I start with this, and then obviously we iterate forward. And so I've kicked this off. We have a Jumpstart app. Look, it's brand new. It's just the other day, Chris and the team added basically a first draft of a command palette, which is pretty cool. Notion has a similar one, so that'll be fun to recreate that. Not as critical, because our primary goal is to talk about text editors. But that is just an example of the awesomeness of having, for $250 a year or something to start with Jumpstart. So I've started with Jumpstart. I've done more because I've been building apps for many years. I've many other things I like. So I just want to sort of go through. One of the things I use is rspec. I wouldn't force it on anyone. I just find it gives me joy. So I use rspec. So I've got here, I've edited the generators so that it produces rspec generators. I don't find that I use the style sheet or helper generator files. I typically delete those, so we'll get rid of those. My generators are going to use UUIDs. Now, I do this in most apps. I haven't actually modified Chris's. Often when I start, another thing I'll do and change Chris is I'll change all of his database primary keys to UUIDs. And I haven't really committed to that yet. So I will see whether I go and rewrite all of his schema as UUIDs later. But for the moment, I've copied this in from somewhere else. All my new models will be UUIDs. And we'll see where we get. I've got Overcommit. Overcommit is like sets up Git hooks locally. So when I do a commit or when I do a push, I can run commands because Git hooks aren't really copyable. They sort of sit outside the repo, very local. So this is a local way. So we'll run standard RB, we'll run an ERB linter just to find anything that it doesn't like that's not common. I like linters a lot. It means that the code's consistent across anyone else that touches it. And finally, when we do a push, we'll run rspec, which I'll keep there until it's too slow and I don't like it anymore. But for the moment, it means every time I push, it also first runs the tests. A couple other things. I like FactoryBot. When I start a project, like many things, once a project gets big, you might start to dread certain things. But I like FactoryBot, so we'll go with that. We're going to use Sidekick later, not in the first video. We'll come back to that. But, it's really easy to turn on with Jumpstart Pro. Just click a button, save, and it adds a bunch of things for Sidekick. So this is, we'll use that later when we want to test things in and around Sidekick. Faker is a gem that produces a lot of random data, which is great for tests and in FactoryBot. And I've actually put it in the root because I'm going to use it for seeding. I just think it's fun, to be able to generate things live. It doesn't add too much to my app to throw it in at the top level of my gem file. There's a new version of Pundit, and we're going to use strong migrations. And at the bottom of my gem file, I put this, do not put anything up. We've had this on various projects, and it just means, please, when you run bundle add, take a moment just to put it back up wherever it is you want it to be in the gem file. Okie dokie, so we've got the gem file.lock. What else have we got here that's new and exciting? So we've got factories, so we're just going to set up from factories various things, so account and user and notification, just some stuff I've copied from other places, so they're probably not relevant here. And factories, and yeah, just rspec. Nothing interesting really. Some helpers. But yeah, if you wanted another video for us to go through how I sort of take Jumpstart and turn it into an app that I start with, yes, we can do that as a separate video. Just let me know in the comments. Good. I don't think there's anything else in here. It's more just things I've copied from other projects. We all do it. I start with Jumpstart, bring over ideas, and then I've sort of got my Jumpstart, the Dr. Nick Jumpstart. On the topic of tests, if you're a Jumpstart person, you'll know that it comes with its own set of mini tests. And I said I was going to use rspec. That does not mean I delete all of Chris's tests. That's crazy. It's got lots of tests, 300 and something assertions. So I keep those. And basically in the CI, we'll run his old tests and my tests, which are going to be rspec. And eventually, maybe some of the ones get moved and rewritten and put into mine. But for the moment, I keep his and keep running them. And we've, of course, got a couple of little rspec tests that just test the factories. So that's what we have. And so what we're going to do in this video, I thought what we'll do in this video is sort of start. The next video, we'll get into TipTap and look at what I know about it and how I think it's going to be useful. But you can sort of see it kind of in many ways looks, if you just look down here, it looks like Notion. I mean, not that a checkbox is a checkbox. It's not that interesting, but there are things we can do because we get to style it and we get to much more deterministic. It's our editor. We can make these choices of what an editor looks like. And so we might start with what Notion is and we might evolve it to be something else. It's going to be fun. So let's get started. The core idea I wanted to do in this video, besides say hello and introduce myself, and to talk about the project that I thought we'd build together, is the page. The core premise of Notion is kind of the page. A page has a title, a page has a body of text, then it has some comments that go off the side. A page has a slug for what its URL is. Then pages are owned by accounts, so I can have multiple accounts. These are the pages that belong to that account, and they have sort of a tree structure to them. So you can sort of see this. These are the top level pages. These are pages that link off another page. And so that's kind of like a tree. So we've got an ordered list of pages, and then within each child or with each parent, there's another ordered list. And either you add them here or you sort of reference them somewhere in the page. So if I go and say, I want another page, and then we go, yep. Cool. So now the other page is down here. Right, so there it is, it appears there, and my guess is it drops. No, okay, so there you go. It doesn't actually put it into the text until we actually do it later on. So, okay, so there you go. So we've got this tree, and what else we got? So this scrolls up and down. We've got new, and we've got this text. So what I wanted to do is create this page model, set up our scaffold, and see how far we get just to sort of dump in some text. And then in the next video, we'll look at how we design TipTap, wire it up, perhaps do some hot menus and pop-ups and things like that. And yeah. Should be fun, and then we'll see what we can bring out into Rails apps in general. Rails apps, we have scaffolds. There's look. You can just go to model scaffold and then come up, or you can start with the top level scaffold, or generator. I said scaffold, I meant generator. We've got generators. We have lots of generators in Rails. It's one of my favorite things because it sort of says this is a starting point and go from there. And so either you can start with model, and I could do a page model, right? I've actually sort of a little idea here of what we might have, a title. In fact, we'll just do that in a second. But I think what we'll do is we'll have the full scaffold, which is going to give us a controller, a model, the base routes, and a bunch of views, most of which we won't want. We don't want the views because we have our own idea of what our Rails app is going to look like. But I want the controller that gets generated by Jumpstart, so we're going to do it this way. So let's do this. So we're going to have a title, we're going to have a slug, and we're going to have some sort of body. Not 100% sure what I'm doing with the body yet, whether it's just going to be text or whether I want to use Rails rich text. I don't know if I need Rails rich text, but we'll come to that. So we're going to have a title, a slug, and we'll just say some sort of body, which will be a text or a type text on Postgres. Now we talked about the nested thing, so this is going to have a parent, which will be references back to this particular model. Also, every page should be owned by an account, and we talked about it being ordered. So if I keep reloading this page, these will always be in the same order. Subpage and another page will always be in the same order. So it's like an ordered list. So we'll have a position index integer. Now there's a couple of gems we're going to use to do with the ordering of the list, and then the nested tree structure. And position happens to be the default name, and parent happens to be the default name for the tree structure. If you've ever used Rails generators before, you'll know it spits out these. Now it happens that JSP or Jumpstart Pro modifies a bunch of these for its own purposes, and we'll visit those in a second. But let's start at the bottom, and then we'll come up and look at what we've got. The only thing I really want to change is that the parent can be null. Those top level parents, I think, so these pages here don't have a parent. There's no parent page. And if there was, then that one would have. There's going to be some pages that don't have a parent, so we'll let that be null. Now, the title. You might say, well, the title should exist. Except the way Notion sort of works as an idea is that when you create a new page, it can exist and not have a title. I think. So there's my untitled. So it has no title, or maybe it's called untitled, but it's not called, the untitled name is not used in the slug. So the page was allowed to be created, even though it had no title and it had no anything else. So we'll do the same thing. No title, we'll figure out the slug business later on. Timestamps. Let's just migrate those. What else? So we got rspec. Because I modified the generator configuration, I get rspec, and you can see I've got the UUIDs, which I want or don't want, I don't know. And scaffold, and we'll look at, and most of this is not what we want. That's just what JSP gives us, which is cool. And if you're building business apps, this scaffold is a great reason to buy Jumpstart. Just it looks really nice. And I don't want this JBuild stuff. If I'm going to get around to doing APIs, I'll do it myself. And I don't want these view specs. I don't know what to do with view specs. So let's just get rid of that. I don't want those. I don't want this builder stuff. Probably should figure out how to turn that off. And all right, I'll run the migrations. Let's flash out. Obviously, I was dabbling before I decided to start recording. Get rid of some ideas. And get rid of view. Let's run the migrations. Parent. Right, so it references parent. We need to say that it's looking for a class called parent. And that doesn't exist because we actually want it to reference back to this table. So we'll say that it goes to this pages table. I need it to have a better attitude. And oh, right, so account, okie dokie. Let's see what we're up to now. So bin dev is a nice helper for Jumpstart to run the app. And here is our app. I don't have an account to log into yet. There's our pages. And what's interesting is this is the standard Jumpstart scaffold you get. You get this sort of nice, create your first page, and we could create, page, blog, and then the slug might be blog, and then I could have the log posts, and there's no parent, and it would belong to my account, and it would have position 1. Isn't that nice? It's nice what you get when you create this thing. So we don't want any of this because we're building something cooler. So we are going to throw away most of this. And that's okay. Let's get rid of all this. Dun, 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 dun. Where should we start? Let's start with page. So this was what Scaffold Jumpstart Pro gave us, a bunch of cool stuff around Hotwire. I haven't decided yet whether we'll use Hotwire or Stimulus Reflex or both. We'll come back to that. But we do need to clean this up. So this parent, it actually belongs to the page, and so that it can reference itself. And we have a spec. So let's start with creating factories. I find them helpful, and that is incredible. This is GitHub Copilot, and GitHub Copilot thinks I would like to press tab and get all of that. Let's press tab. It just gave me all these tests that it thinks I want. That is incredible, and I don't want any of them. So I don't quite understand the point of testing things for the sake of them existing. If I want them, I type them. So what I do want is has a factory. So let's make that. So let's do page equals create. We want a page factory. There's some sort of default, and we should expect that when you be truthy. So I expect that when I create a factory, amongst anything else, what I do expect my factory to have is it should have a valid page title, because why else? Yes, I could make a blank one. I might want to do title nil, but by default, just a bit of a sanity check, I'd like my factory to provide a title. What we got? Where are my factories? Here are my factories. So let's make another one for my page. How do I type these things? I'll just copy and paste that. So we want this to have page. I don't care about that or that. Title. There is a library, Faker RB. So if you know what Faker is, Faker RB is a library that's super handy for testing when you're creating factories to create random strings and names and emails and all sorts of lots of things. It's incredible. I thought we'll go with some words. So I could just do lorem. So that way I'd always get 3-word titles, which sounds fine. And the other thing we need is an account. Every page needs to belong to an account. This syntax is synonymous with this syntax. So I could do account, and then you pass in a block, and this is what block gets run every time we create a new factory or instance. So every time we run create fact page, this will get run another time, get generating a new random title, and this would get run. That is so I can actually just remove that, and it's exactly the same. Or I can pass the account through if I know what the account is. And okie dokie, let's run the test. Parent must exist. All right, so we made the model here, and we said that the parent is of type page, but we did not say that it was optional. It's optional in our database, we just didn't say it was optional here. Great. Now, we've got these requests specs, and this is the specs that were given to us by Jumpstart Pro for testing our page, the API coming into the controller. We're going to focus on the model for the moment. So we'll do rspec, spec models. All right, so our page spec creating a factory is good to go for the moment, but we have other things we wish to care about. For example, it creates a slug. So what I'm thinking is every time we create or update a page, we get a new slug. So let's get a page, create page. Now in order to sort of test the slug, we need to sort of know what the title of the page is. And I didn't type anything. That was GitHub Copilot guessing what it is that I want. You just rub your nose like this and Copilot figures stuff out. So it sort of looked at the fact that I wrote creates a slug and guessed the rest of it. Absolutely incredible. We'll change the page title, another title, and it guesses again. God damn it. This should fail. Excellent. Because we haven't done the work yet. So we now need to create a slug every time we update the slug. So we'll do it after or before save, I think. Why not? I have no reason for this to be a bad idea just yet. Update slug. And we'll give it half a chance to do the job for me. And our test passes now. So that means anytime we create a new page or update the page title, we'll get a new slug. And we'll do something fun with the JavaScript on the page so that if you're editing the title of the page, that will automatically submit that to the server, which will return a new slug and update the URL. Now at the moment, we've gone with a simple tag. That is not what Notion does. Notion's got some unique ID at the back end there, which is a good idea because it means that multiple pages could all have this same, blog or whatever that name. That is obviously not unique across all their customers. This was unique across all their customers. So the idea of the slug being the way we reference it or not having a unique ID probably won't last very long. We're going to need something different, but we'll stick with this for the moment. Now, eventually we're going to want to come back and look up pages via their slug. So we need URLs to have the slug in them. And we do that with two params. Or two param. I want you to think I'm a good programmer, so let me write and we'll do the slug. So slug is going to be how we're going to look this up, whatever the slug is. Like I said, later on we might want to put the ID plus here or something like that. And then we'll update, but the slug will store that. Awesome. So we now have a slug. What else do we want? We want the structure. We want it to be a tree, and we want the things to be ordered. So a tree of ordered pages. Yes. So let's do some pages. Let's go create page, title, page 1. Let's see if it has close. It's not perfect. All right. And what we'll do is we'll make some assertions. Expect that page 1 dot position is 1. 2, oops, 2, 3. So we'll create 3 pages and just check that by virtue of them being created, something automatically set the position. Doesn't do it yet, but we'll do that next. So we want that position. And let's now, the next part of the test, I guess, is create some subpages. So we'll go page 1, children. We don't really have a concept of children yet, but we'll, just assume that it exists. Yep. Yeah, anyway, this will be fine. We'll fix it as we go. So we want this one to have a position of 1 inside the parent that it's in. So this is page 2, and this would be a 2. And if we then go and make a page, underneath page 2, we have a subpage. Oops. 2.1. The first in it will be position 1. Yeah. So top 3 pages, as we create them, get put after each other with this explicit position that we later on be able to use to automatically sort things. And then if we add child pages, then they'll also get ordered within the parent. That's cool. Now, the reason I can write that test is, well, I have a clear idea of what I'm building, which isn't always how we code, I guess, is it sometimes? Or we go with confidence until we hit a brick wall and we go back and then we go forward again with confidence. And so until proven otherwise, I'm pretty confident this will look good. Now, the way I'm going to implement this is by not implementing it. I'm going to borrow some things that exist in the universe. And we've got here axes list, which is designed for the job of where we want. Provides a capability of sorting and reordering a number of objects in a list. Boom. With a position column, which it's almost like I read the documentation before I started videoing. I disagree with these instructions. I don't disagree with this in essence, but I think you should have the little tilde. You should scope down what version approximately you think you want. So where we were going to add it, and the way I wish it was in all the instructions, was bundle, add, and then the name. Not gem install and not adding the thing into my gem file. So what was the difference? I'm glad you asked. So you can see that it has attempted with a little squiggly thing to say that at the time I added it, there was a particular family of versions that I cared about. And if version 2 comes out tomorrow, I don't want it until I decide that I want it, and I'll bump it myself. So the instructions in the documentation, now this is not just axes lists problem. If I go across to axis tree, it doesn't even say how to install it. It's probably better. But yeah, I would rather it said gem add axis lists. Be done with it. So here we are. Now, I put my little reminder to myself. Let's take that out and pop it up here. Either in the top level or under the test dev or wherever it is group, but just be explicit about adding it. Now, what does that do? Nothing until I add it. So now in here, in my page, I need to run the ax as list helper. And what that does, it will do the automatically pop the number in. But we need to add this scope. And I don't know where GitHub Copilot knows to do that, probably because I did it before, perhaps. I don't know. It's very clever. So we do want to specify a scope. Let's have a quick look at the docs, and you can sort of see here that you might do a scope within a belongs to. And even this is exactly the pattern. This tree of to-do items is exactly the pattern that we're borrowing. And it gives us then a bunch of little mini commands. So if we want to move things up and down or reorder them, it will re-update all the positions for us. So that's a lovely little chunk of code to not have to write ourselves. We should write tests to make sure it's doing what we want it to do, at least the very nature. But, all right, let's see where our tests are up to. What I'm expecting is these 3 now work, but this one doesn't because we don't have children. But I think these 3 should now work. And the one that stopped working is where it said, I don't know what children means. Excellent, 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 excellent. Now, children. I could do a has many children, and again, I do class name, page, foreign key, parent ID. Could do that. Let's see what our tests do. And now it's complaining about the accounts. Okay. Let's fix the account thing, and then we'll come back and look at this because I want to change this to acts as tree. let's have a look at our. So we're creating these children, but now that see the difference here is I'm actually invoking a Rails create method, whereas before I was using the factory. And in the factory also created an account. And so we got the account. And what we didn't really cover very well is, well, you wouldn't have noticed, if we do pretty print of page 1 count name, page 2 account name. Let's just see what the account names. Ideally, they'd all be the same. There we go. You'll see that it created 3 pages with 3 unique accounts. And I don't think that's what we meant. And it's not going to be very helpful later on. So we do want these all to have the same account. Couple of options. One is we could create an account. And then here, I could pass it all in. So now they'd all have the same account. And now there we go. Could do that. But it's going to be very common to be creating things and having to pass the explicit account all the time. I think I want to do something different. And that is, I want to always get the same account unless otherwise I'll say what the account is. So instead of doing this, what I might do is account.first or that. It's basically saying, if I'm creating pages, just use the first account, which is probably the only account because I'm not really testing multi-account type things at the moment. After I've created the first one, then just keep giving it to me over and over and over again. Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with this idea, so I'm going to do it. Okay, so the 3 accounts, the 3 pages I created first are now all being attached to the same account. That's pretty cool. And what that means is that if I switch from running this, let's go back in here and use the factories again, which will always use that parent, that same account. So that's handy. But now what I need to do is say what parent. So parent is page 1, and this one was page 2. So we got rid of needing to use that children, which didn't work. Oh well, we'll come back to it. But also, yeah, we should now get the same account every time. And that test passes because of the scope. So this now works. We didn't need access tree just yet. But because the position is being managed within the scope of the parent, it's automatically being updated to start at 1, then 2, and then this one goes back to being 1 again. So we've got page scaffold. Not that we really talked about the scaffold just yet, with ordered tree of children. Lovely. And that, my friends, is the overcommit. Let's just look at that overcommit again. So overcommit is what I've got here is a couple of pre-commits. One that runs standard RB on things that have changed in the Git diff, and that will just make sure that I've followed all the standard patterns that standard RB. Like any linting tool, it is not worth the health hazard of disagreeing. Just agree with what it says. It's so much more valuable to just agree. Now, the reason I like standard RB is because it agrees with me more than I disagree with it. And the test double team are awesome. And so, yes, standard RB, highly recommend. Mwah. The next linting I've got is called ERB lint, and it attempts to apply a bunch of linting rules to the HTML. And because I've run the scaffold, I've generated HTML, and it did not like it. It did not like the HTML that has come from Jumpstart. Obviously, I've not run this before on my changes. So, we'll talk about linting another time. This is kind of off the topic. So what I'm going to do, oh, and by the way, the way you activate overcommit is you run overcommit. So I have it installed as a gem. I think it's a gem. Yeah, it's a gem. And then I can uninstall it. That way. That's not very friendly. You should have it installed. Having said that, overcommit. I will turn off the linting for this video, and then I'll fix all that other stuff off camera. So I rerun the commit. Because those overcommit things failed, the whole commit failed. So the commit never happened, which is perfect. So now we have a much more manageable thing of things I changed that are my fault. This spec, I don't care for it. I don't care for routing specs. Lovely. Oh, one other change. Really don't want this to be in main. I like branches. So we'll call this pages. And then we'll push this. So now when we do a push, then it runs the overcommit steps for pushing, which included running the tests. Yeah, sure, you'll have CI and that'll run the tests as well, but failing fast, whilst your tests are running fast, why not run them straight away? Awesome. Now, what have we got? I added new gems in the gem file. I need to restart the server so that it loads that up the first time. Rails can do a lot of auto loading of code, not so great at reloading new gems. Okie dokie. Now, so let's talk about a web app and how we get it to look like Notion. There's no new in our thing. There's no new, you just sort of, they exist. You say, I want a new one, but it doesn't really bring up a form in sort of CRUD fashion of the last decade of Rails apps, of a CRUD page with a form and you have to press create. We don't want that. We don't want that Rails thing. If I do new, I just want it to create a new one and start editing it. So that's the pattern I want. And so where am I going to go? Let's have a look at our pages controller. So I want pages to be authenticated. And that means I get a current model, we have a user, an account, and some other aspects, a time zone. That's kind of can be useful. And what are we going to do? We're not going to have an index. There's no index. If you go to the /pages, I don't want to go, there's no index of pages. They're in the sidebar. I just want to show the first page. So what we'll do is, if you go to an index, then we'll get a page. We'll go current account. There's current account, and then there's current account, and they're the same. Current account dot pages, where page nil first. This looks suspiciously like we should have it as a scope. It's like a top level, and we'll do that. And if we get one of those, we should redirect to it, else redirect to, I don't know, root path. Why not? What do we care? I don't actually know the scenario about why, or maybe we should create a page and redirect to it. Yeah, let's do that. So if you don't have any pages, then let's create, I'm going to go bang just to make sure it's always fails while I'm developing. I like bang. I like all my create methods having bang on them. And now we can get rid of this, and we don't need that in the future either. So first time we visit pages, it should create a blank page for us, and then it will redirect to it. And then, but the next time we come back and we go to /pages or whatever the root is, it'll find that first page and say, okay, I don't know what page you want, we'll just go to the first one. All right, here. So now this is our primary, and as we said, we're not going to do new. There's no new. I don't care about new. And you know what? I'm not going to edit. There's no editing either. This is showing pages. And there's no creating. I'm not going to create anything. Just get blank pages that are already created. But we can destroy. Excellent. And you are not going to be going around changing what account things belong to. And you don't change slugs either. So you can change the title, you can change the body, you can change what parent a page belongs to, and you can change the position. We'll see what damage that causes us later on. All right, so this is kind of our main method. I'm going to move it up here because it's the one I care about the most. And automatically we'll get it, show, set page for show, and update. Cool. Now, I already see a problem. Do you see a problem? I see a problem. The problem is this. I've just created a new page and I update the slug. The slug is based on the title. There is no title. Let's go and describe. Here's the problem for untitled. Let's see what happens. So create page with nil and watch. I mean, what? Even in the write, I don't know what to write for the test. What would you write? So I think what we'll do is we'll change these to match. Like, I want that somewhere in the slug, but you know, don't know what the slug looks like. I'm not going to commit to anything, but I do need a slug. Let's run the test and see what the damage is. Okie dokie. So this is the error I was referring to. We have a model with no title, so therefore this is nil, and we're calling parameterized. Now, you may know that you can do this. If the thing you're calling it on is nil, then don't run parameterized, as that whole thing becomes nil. Very handy, which will mean slug is nil. Doesn't solve any of our problems. So how about, so we have a couple parts. One is if it's presence, if it has presence, then we could do this. Otherwise, we could do ID. That's kind of, you know, so basically the slug is the ID if we don't have a title. Sure. But while we're at it, how about we have a think about the global title? Lots of different accounts could have lots of different titles. They could all be the same. So how about we always? How about we do? So the model that is, if you remember, they use the sort of the slug part and then the ID part. So let's do that. That seems like a reasonable. So we're title dot parameterize and then ID, and then we'll join, compact, and then join. What? Presence to be truthy. So that's not looking good. Looks empty. What nil? Why is it nil? Because it's before save. God damn it. Right. So how about, let's do this. Oh, dear me. After create commit, we'll update the slug. If you're catching up, the problem we've got is that before save means on before, that's the same as saying before update and before create. This one is great because we have the ID. This one is sad because we don't have the ID yet. No title, no ID, compact those together, it's all nil. So we need the ID after create slug. So this one is going to be specifically called after the create, because this one we're going to do an update. I could do an update slug and then save. Let's see if the test like that. The test like that. Excellent. So now this has a slug which matches. This has a slug. And if we create a page, it should have a slug. And I really would like an index on my slug now. But we'll do that later. Okie dokie. So we now have a slug. We now have two params. We have a slug. We can find our page. Let's have a look what it looks like. Turbo stream. I don't know what any of this is going to be for yet. Content page. What does it do? It just puts the title. It's just the title. So we can just go. This content for is going to go in the header. So in that sort of title thing that's in the header. Page title. Or untitled. Yes. Or I should probably do this. Untitled. I'm not a huge fan of putting things on the top level here. Let's ignore all this. Page, title. That was probably all bad. Pages. Okay. Current account pages. Page ID. Really, this should be a scope. Top level. Where And we'll do order, position. So now we can just do pages. That looks nicer, doesn't it? Hooray! Where's my title? That's right, title. There it is, our unknown title. Excellent. Cool. We have models. Now let's just finish up. We'll get this in there because it kind of looks cool. Your patience is admirable. I really spectacularly appreciate that you're here for me. Next thing we want is to we're going to bulk copy this over and find out what happens. So in my show page, we had that stuff there, and let's just copy and paste this in. How bad could it go? It didn't go badly at all, did it? That looks pretty good. As you can see, that my sidebar here and the Jumpstart top navbar clash in purpose. If you look at Notion, that they have a top bar here and then the sidebar, and so do a little refactoring of the layout to bring that in here. Let's just get rid of this top bar. Let's go to the application, HTML, layouts. Dun, 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 dun. And we've got Flash and we've got navbar. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. Tell you what we're going to do. Get rid of all that. I'm not even sure that I need this main thing. All right, so we've got rid of everything because what I designed was the main of the app. That'll be fine. And now we'll go into our show page, and those things that I just took out. Yes, let's just pop you in here for a moment. I don't know what you are. Yeah, look at that. Now it sits at the top. Okay, one difference. This is fixed to the top, and mine is not. I don't know how I feel about that. I do this, fixed top 0, inset. No, let's just do top. That width full. Okay, where did my side thingy go? All right, look, that's you know. We have a top bar, and I'll figure that out. I mean, that's what the video is. I'm supposed to be doing things in front of you, but my little thing has wandered off to the side. Tell you what, let's just leave it like that. That's harmless. Looks kind of cool. We could make it width 2/3. Maybe I need to make it width, do a calculation and subtract that, or I don't know. I don't know why width full didn't work. Or maybe this needs to be sticky. Oh my God, this is difficult. That was kind of interesting. Sticky, and I still get this gap. There we go. Sticky. Sticky for the win. Cool. Okie dokie. And let's finish up by at least putting in the title. There's many things we can do. We have some fake comments, and this is where you'd start ripping this out as partials. And where is my title? My title is here. There's my title. Right, now we'll start with title, and it's nil. Oh, sorry. All right, all that word break stuff. All right, now I think if we do an untitled page, it's actually more of a, it's a field, and it's an input. And this gets into the next phase of what we want to do, which is how we want to do inputs to be real time, and then onto the text. We've also got adding covers. I just think, yeah, look at that. Add cover and just randomly picks one. I just think that's the best. It's one of my favorite things. It's just a picture and then icons. And so you pick an icon and then it automatically updates over here. I just think it's such a harmless thing to add. And then pick another emoji or a picture or whatever. Just great. And these are good ideas, and I wish people to feel like when you're building your apps, it doesn't take too long to add these ideas that just make the world a better place for your app. So, okay, we've got, let me just, we don't have a way to edit this right now, so let me just go to Rails. And we'll just manually edit it. Page, first, update, title, this was our first page. There it is. Look at us. And probably one other thing we can do is we can probably, now that we have a sidebar, let's render sidebar. Sidebar.html. There we go. So this is the sidebar, and we can break it down to more partials. But for the moment, what I want is these buttons. This is, I'm looking at this portion down here, my top level pages. I should see this was our first page over here. So let's do that. So we have these buttons, and particularly this is the button I like. So we'll do top, I don't really know what we're doing yet, top level page, one of those, and we'll put that in a loop in a second. I want this, and I don't want these. And what are we going to do? We'll do top pages. Each do page. Pass that through. This is kind of we used to do top partial, sidebar, blah, 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 and then you do locals, and then you do page, and thank God someone eventually realized that is so excessively verbose, and now we can just do this. So we're going to have that, some page, we'll put in page.title. Why is that not ERB? That looks nicer. The only thing missing is we actually need top pages equal current account. Oh, here they are, top level. Let's do that. Don't like your attitude. Tell me one person that can read this and go, yes, I understand exactly what's going on. Oh, I'm missing an end. There's some other way of doing that, isn't there? Collection. That was close. Surely that was close-ish. How I screwed that up. Some of you at home have seen what I've done wrong and are laughing at me. I, on the other hand, have not seen what I've done wrong. I have a feeling I know what I did. Pop pages, each do page. There we go. Lovely. And let's just double check that this all looks good. So we'll go count, first, pages, create, title, our second page. There it is. Look at that. Happy times. So let's pause, wrap this up, and just check that our tests work, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next. So what we've achieved so far is that we've taken a design that I did beforehand, or someone else did for us in this context, and we started our new app. We took JSP and we added the rspec and a few other tweaks that make me happy, and then we built the page model, which essentially was a title and a body and a slug, and we figured out that we can't just use the text from the title. We also need to make it globally unique, and it needs to exist and work even if there is no title. And then we wired it up. So we put the title here, we added all the pages to the sidebar there. What we should do now is just make sure that the existing tests that we've got work. Now, I must admit, I did rip out some tests for the pages that, and I'll write those and then we do the next video. Obviously, we'll get back to writing tests. But let's just make sure we didn't break any of Chris Oliver's tests in Jumpstart Pro. We did. I want to say it's your fault. You've stuck with me, all right? And we should share responsibility here. So why did they break? Let's have a look at some of these existing tests. So some of these existing tests are probably all broke. So what they do is you sign in and then you visit some of the other pages. The pages we didn't touch, they're just existing pages, so like edit account. So let's have a look here. So we'll go to profile, and edit account. And then it clicks buttons. The problem, some of them are going to be clicking buttons in the navbar that I ripped out. If you remember, what I did was because I wanted the navbar to move from the top of the page just onto this side panel, I took it out of the layout and just put it into the page's show view. So now it doesn't show anywhere else except here. It turns out to probably not going to be working for us. So what I think we'll do is we'll revert the application layout to what I got from Jumpstart, and we'll do a specific layout just for the pages controller. Let's do that. First, let's copy the layout. So we've got here application layouts. We'll go from copy the application one into the pages one, basically renaming it. So the one that we modified, we're going to keep that just for the pages controller. And now what I want is, I've got this Jumpstart, so application, views, layouts. We'll just basically copy that one back into this project. So for all the other pages of the app, which we haven't really touched and they're just Jumpstart defaults, they should keep working. So now let's just refresh this page. Okay, so anything in the pages controller is now using the pages layout. Just to demonstrate that we have that, let's go press say hi, and who knows where hi is. And how about there it is. So there's our hi that we don't want. So let's take that out. But that's just to sort of show that this is now the pages layout. And our application layout is back to having the navbar and the flash and everything as part of the layout. So now if we visit some of these other pages again, look, there it is, there's our navbar. And let's just check that our tests have a better attitude. I don't want to say our test suite is negative against us. I mean, we try our hardest. It's just a hard taskmaster. So there we go. We've fixed all the existing tests by bringing the navbar back in. This we will now restore navbar to existing pages. Oops. Excellent. So now the navbar, and we're here. So we're finished. I honestly appreciate that you've stuck with me for the last hour or so. And what we will do in the next video is we'll focus on just finishing up the basic of editing. So the idea of being able to do an inline edit here. So basically this will always be editable either by clicking it. I don't know yet whether we'll make it a header that when you click it becomes an input. We'll figure that out. But we do want to make it live so that after we do the debounce, after you've finished changing it, that it goes to the server. And then we come back with a new URL, not that we reload the page, we'll just mutate the URL in place. Obviously we want to update here. And it'd be great if someone else is modifying it, another user, then also we get changes. So we'll look at using Turbo or Stimulus Reflex, Cable Ready, one of those. So yeah, that's the next video, and then maybe the video after that, we'll get into the text editor where we'll look at using TipTap, see how far we can get with making it awesome for us. So thank you very much. You really appreciate you joining me on this journey for building a new Rails app, and at least one of us will have a shiny text editor to play with. So see you in the next video.